Welcome to today's deep dive.
Ugh.
We're going to be looking at something we could all probably use a little help with, conversations.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, we do it every single day, but how often do we actually stop and think about it strategically?
Yeah, for sure. And we've got this great podcast episode that we're diving into that's got all of these practical hacks to kind of level up your communication game.
Hmm.
I like to think of it like cheat codes, but for your conversations.
I love that analogy. I think that's a great way to think about it. It's not about like a massive personality overhaul or anything like that. It's just, little tactical things that can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And the episode lays out 5 specific strategies.
Mm.
And honestly, just reading through the source material, I was like, man, I'm already itching to try these out. So where do we even begin?
I think the most fundamental one that underpins kind of everything else that we're going to talk about is something that they call the 2-second rule.
Okay, 2 seconds. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's all about the pause. So, after someone finishes speaking, resist that urge to jump right in and just take 2 seconds. Just 2 to really process what they've said.
2 seconds doesn't sound like much, but I could already see how that could shift the whole dynamic.
Exactly. And one of the things that they talk about in the podcast is that shows respect, right? Because it demonstrates that you're actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
It's like that saying, seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Exactly. And there's actually a psychological basis for this too, because when we pause, we actually engage this part of the brain that's associated with active listening and empathy. It allows us to kind of move beyond, our own internal monologue and really tune into the other person.
Wow, I never even thought about it that way. It's almost like a mini meditation, like in the middle of a conversation, It's helping you to stay present and focused.
Yeah. Right. And they even use this hilarious example in the podcast of like this coffee shop conversation that just goes completely wrong because someone accidentally interrupts. And then they kind of replay it with the 2-second pause. And it's like night and day, how much smoother and more respectful it is.
Oh, I need to hear this. Tell me about this coffee shop mishap.
Okay, so picture this. 2 friends are catching up, and one of them is like, excitedly describing this new hobby that they've picked up, pottery, and they're mid-sentence explaining how they finally, centered the clay on the wheel, and the other friend, eager to relate, jumps in with their own story about this, disastrous attempt at making a vase.
Ouch. I can already feel the conversational crash coming.
And the friend who was talking about the pottery, their face just falls, You can practically hear their enthusiasm deflating.
Poor Potter. So in the revised version with the pause, what happens?
Well, this time, the friend patiently waits the 2 seconds, and it just makes all the difference. The potter gets to finish their thought, and then the friend's story, instead of being an interruption, it actually becomes like this natural extension of the conversation. It flows, it's respectful, and both people feel heard.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2-second pause check. What's the next conversational cheat code we need to unlock?
All right, this next one is a little bit more subtle, but it's equally powerful. It's called the mirroring trick.
Mirroring. Okay, now you've officially piqued my curiosity. Does this involve actual mirrors? Because that could get a little awkward.
No mirrors required, thankfully. It's about subtly matching the other person's energy, their tone, and their body language.
Wait, so if someone's super animated and talking a mile a minute, I could mirror that.
Not necessarily mimic them exactly, but yeah, match their energy level. If you're super laid back while they're all fired up, it creates a disconnect.
Right. You want to find that common ground.
Yeah.
But isn't mirroring something that we kind of do naturally anyway?
It is to a degree. But when you do it consciously, it becomes this really powerful tool for building rapport. I mean, have you ever noticed how you instinctively lean in when someone else leans in, or how your voice softens when they speak softly?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
I never realized that I was doing it on purpose.
Well, there's a scientific reason for that. It's all thanks to these things called mirror neurons in our brains. They actually fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else doing that same action.
No way. So when we mirror someone, our brains are basically experiencing it too.
Exactly. And that shared experience creates this sense of connection and empathy.
Okay, that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's not just about mimicking, it's about tapping into this deeper level of connection through shared experience.
Mind officially blown.
I know, right? Pretty cool. All right, ready for hack number 3. This one is so simple, yet incredibly effective.
Hit me with it. I'm all about the simple hacks.
Okay, prepare yourself. It is the magic phrase, tell me more.
Wait, that's it. Tell me more. That's like the most obvious thing ever. I know, right? But think about how often we miss the opportunity to use it. Instead of saying, tell me more, we often fall back on these really generic responses like, oh, cool, or that's nice.
Ugh. You're so right. I am totally guilty of that. Why is tell me more so much better?
Because it shows genuine interest. It invites the other person to expand on what they're saying and makes them feel like you're actually curious about what they have to share. The Source podcast used this great example of someone sharing that they're starting to learn photography.
Let's play this out. I'm the one learning photography. What's the wrong way to respond?
The wrong way to respond would be like, oh, photography, that's cool.
Yeah, ouch.
Yeah.
I feel like my exciting new hobby just got completely dismissed.
Exactly. Now imagine I say, photography? That's awesome. Tell me more about what kind of photography you're interested in.
Ooh, that is a total game changer. Suddenly I feel like seen and heard. Like you actually want to know more about my passion.
And that, my friend, is the power of tell me more. It takes the conversation from this passive exchange of information to an active exploration of shared interests.
Okay, I'm adding tell me more to my conversational arsenal immediately. What's next?
All right. The fourth one builds on that idea of active listening and engagement. And it's called echo and expand.
Echo and expand. I feel like we're getting into some advanced level conversation skills here.
It's not as complicated as it sounds. It's about repeating part of what the other person said and then adding something to it, either a question, a related thought, or even just an acknowledgement of their feelings.
Okay, I need an example. Give me a scenario.
Okay, imagine someone says, I love hiking. Now, you could respond with a flat, oh, cool, and that would be the end of that.
Yeah.
But if you want to echo and expand, you might say, hiking is awesome.
Huh.
Do you have a favorite trail?
Ooh, I see the difference.
Yeah.
You're acknowledging their statement and then inviting them to elaborate.
Exactly. And that simple act of echoing and expanding shows that you're really listening and that you're genuinely interested in what they have to say. The podcast compares a flat response to a response using echo and expand. And it's amazing how much more lively and engaging that second conversation becomes.
It's like you're taking their initial statement and you're building a bridge to something deeper.
Exactly. And that bridge is what keeps the conversation flowing and prevents it from just fizzling out.
Okay, 4 down, 1 to go. What's the final hack to becoming like a conversational ninja?
This last one might seem obvious, but it's something that we often overlook, and it's all about the power of nonverbal communication, smiling and open body language.
Oh man, I am such a believer in this. I once had this boss who would cross his arms and frown during every meeting, and it just made everyone feel so tense and uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's amazing how much our nonverbal cues impact a conversation. Smiling and maintaining open body language signals that you're approachable, you're engaged, and you're receptive to what the other person is saying.
And on the flip side, closed off body language can be a total conversation killer.
Absolutely. Even if you're saying all the right things, if your body language is screaming, I'm not interested, the message is not going to get through.
So it's not just about what we say, but how we say it, and even how we physically present ourselves in the conversation.
Exactly. And that brings us to the end of our 5 hacks. We've covered a lot of ground, but it really all comes down to these small, intentional shifts that can make a big difference.
I'm already feeling so much more confident about my next conversation. We've got one more part to this deep dive, though, right?
We do. And in the next part, we're going to dive into the why behind all of this. Why are these seemingly simple hacks so effective? What's the psychology at play here?
Ooh, can't wait to uncover those deeper layers. See you in part 2.
Welcome back. It's amazing, how just a few subtle tweaks can really transform the way we communicate.
I know, right? We've unpacked all of these 5 incredible conversation hacks, and I'm already starting to see how they all fit together. But I'm curious, why do these hacks actually work so well? What's the deeper why behind all of this?
That's a great question. And it's something that the podcast that we're diving into also explores. It turns out there's a lot of fascinating psychology at play when it comes to conversations.
Ooh, I love getting into the nitty-gritty of why things work. Tell me everything.
Well, one of the key concepts that kind of underlies several of these hacks is this idea of reciprocity, which is basically this fundamental human principle that when someone does something for us, we feel obligated to do something in return.
Okay, I can see how that applies to the 2-second rule.
Yeah.
When we give someone the gift of our undivided attention by pausing, they're more likely to reciprocate with respect and attentiveness.
Exactly. And it also ties into mirroring, because when we mirror someone's behavior, we're essentially saying, I see you, I understand you, I'm on the same wavelength as you. And that creates this sense of connection that makes the other person feel more comfortable and open.
It was we're building this bridge of understanding through shared experience.
Exactly. And those mirror neurons we were talking about earlier, they play a huge role in this process. They're the biological basis for empathy and connection.
So it's not just a feel-good thing. There's
Well,
actual science behind it.
absolutely. And then there's the power of validation. When we use phrases like tell me more and we echo and expand, we're validating the other person's thoughts and feelings.
I could definitely see how that would make someone feel more valued and heard. It's like we're saying, what you
Right.
have to say is important to me.
Exactly. And that validation creates this positive feedback loop. The more validated someone feels, the more likely they are to open up and share, which in turn leads to a deeper and more meaningful conversation.
It's like a snowball effect of good vibes and connection.
I love that analogy. And then, of course, there's the importance of nonverbal communication, smiling, open body language. All of those cues signal that we're approachable, trustworthy, and genuinely interested.
It's like we're creating this welcoming space for the other person to kind of enter into.
Exactly. And when people feel safe and comfortable, they're more likely to let their guard down and connect on a deeper level.
It's fascinating to think about all of these like subtle psychological dynamics that are at play in every conversation.
It is. And the best part is once you become aware of these dynamics, you can start to use them consciously to create more positive and fulfilling interactions.
So it's not just about mastering these 5 hacks. It's also about understanding the why behind them so that we can use them with intention and awareness.
Exactly. And that brings us to the question, why should our listener care about all of this? What difference does it really make if they master these conversation skills?
That is a great question. And I think the answer is pretty simple. Good communication is the foundation of everything.
Couldn't agree more. Whether it's, building strong relationships, advancing your career, resolving conflicts, or simply having more enjoyable interactions, being able to communicate effectively is essential.
It's like a superpower that can unlock so many doors in life.
Exactly. And they really emphasize this point in the podcast. They talk about how mastering these conversation skills can lead to increased confidence, stronger relationships, and even greater success in both your personal and professional life.
It's like a ripple effect.
Eh.
Better conversations lead to better relationships, better opportunities, and ultimately a more fulfilling life.
I love that visual. And it's not just about those big life-changing moments. Even those small, everyday conversations can be so much more enjoyable and meaningful when we put these skills into practice.
It's like we're sprinkling a little bit of magic into every interaction.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. What conversation are you going to transform with these new skills?
Ooh, that's a great question to ponder. Stay tuned, listeners, because we'll be right back to explore that idea further in part 3. Okay, so we've spent the last couple of parts, journeying through this fascinating world of conversation hacks, uncovering the hidden psychology and all these practical tips.
It's been quite the adventure. And now we arrive at, I think, the most exciting part, putting it all into action.
Yeah, exactly. Because what good is all of this knowledge if we don't actually use it, right?
Right. It's like having the treasure map, but never digging for the treasure.
So, dear listener, we're issuing you a challenge. Okay, think about an upcoming conversation that you have, big or small, personal, professional, doesn't matter.
Got one in mind. Good. Now here's the challenge. Pick just one of the 5 conversation hacks that we've talked about and consciously use it during that interaction.
Yeah, don't try to do all 5 at once. Just
Yeah.
focus on mastering one at a time.
And really observe what happens. How does the conversation flow? How does the other person respond? How do you feel throughout the interaction?
Yeah, I bet you'll be amazed by the difference that even just one small shift can make.
It's like upgrading your conversational operating system. And suddenly you have access to all of these new features and functionalities that you never even knew existed.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover your own personal favorite hack, like the one that feels most natural and effective for you.
That's the beauty of this, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about finding what works best for you and your unique communication style.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a sense of excitement and possibility, because every conversation is a chance to connect, to learn, to grow.
And with these 5 hacks in your toolkit, you have the power to transform those conversations into something truly extraordinary.
So go forth and converse with confidence, dear listener.
Yeah.
And until next time, happy connecting.